A girl named Iris infiltrates a castle, steals a suitcase from the vault, and escapes with a magic power that allows her to summon several explosives. However, an unseen woman summons a gust of wind that breaks open the case and scatters its contents, a special deck of playing cards, far and wide. 1 month later, a pickpocket named Finn steals items from multiple people. After overhearing that the landlord is planning to wipe out the Sunfields orphanage where he grew up to build luxury apartments, anime start with our boy Finn as ugly loser who tries to raise funds quickly, only to find that the pawn shop owner won't fence his stolen goods, except for a special 2 of spades card that Finn refuses to part with. So Finn hitches a ride to Bell Land and hits a casino, winning at the poker table, until a card sharp named Lucky Lunchman cleans him out of his winnings. A casino pit boss takes both Finn and Lucky into a dark room, suspecting them of cheating. Suddenly, one of the guards unveils a 3 of diamonds and transforms it into a pair of gloves that turn anything he grabs into marbles. The man threatens to kill Lucky's family until he releases his own card, the 10 of diamonds. However, a car salesman with the 5 of hearts appears and begins fighting with the fake guard. Finn steals the 10 of diamonds and escapes in the confusion by stealing a car, only to find both men chasing after him. All 3 men manage to survive the fiery crash, but the marble man takes out the car salesman and demands Finn give him his card. Finn decides to test out his 2 of spades and summons a loaded revolver that pierces both the marble and the attacker's arm. However, the car salesman appears alive, as both he and Finn point their guns at each other. As Finn and the car salesman hold each other at gunpoint, VJ suddenly speeds onto the scene at his own car and uses his own card's power to tangle Finn in vines. Finn later finds himself waking up in the back room of the Pinnacle car dealership on Old Maid Street. The salesman from before, Chris Redgrave, is about to kill Finn when Bernard receives a call from the Pinnacle president and decides to give Finn a chance to prove himself. After being introduced to the other members of the dealership working with High Card, Finn is soon hired as an apprentice car seller and assigned to work under Chris. The next morning, Finn is quickly thrown into his first assignment when a bulletproof monster is robbing an armored truck. Chris and Finn confront the man, but quickly find their powers are useless against Rock, the power of the 3 of hearts. Chris baits the attacker into attacking him through the windshield of his car and drives them both into the river. The attacker releases his card's power before he drowns, while Finn uses his own focus to fire a few shots through the car's window, allowing Chris to escape the sunken car. Afterwards, the president tells Bernard that Finn will be fired if he doesn't continue showing results, while the other High Card members mock Finn for having a weak card. Finn rushes to the rescue of a rich boy being kidnapped in broad daylight by 2 men named Jake and Carter. The 2 men blame the boy's father for closing down their factory and leaving them poor, but the boy claims not to know how to contact his father for their ransom demand. After rushing into a Chinese restaurant, local police arrive and arrest all 4 of them. Finn and the boy walk out of the police station, and the other 2 are broken out of their cell by their sister, Nix. Finn tries to appeal to the rich boy by buying him a hot dog and taking him on a ride on the Shield Underground, but the 2 of them are taken prisoner by Nix, who wields the 7 of clubs power, Lethal Scoville, able to create flames of different size and power. While the kidnappers are busy praying to their fire god, Finn uses a key he stole from Jake to unlock their handcuffs and uses his Nambu to bury the brothers under a pile of scrap metal. However, Nix is able to melt Finn's bullets before they reach her. Suddenly, Chris arrives on the scene and tosses a suitcase filled with $1 million in cash at the boy. The boy turns out to be another High Card member named Leo, and he uses his 7 of diamonds power, never no dollars, to swap most of the cash for a bazooka that punches through the flame and takes out Nix. However, the explosion also knocks over the giant scrap metal idol, with Finn saving Leo before he is crushed under it with Nix. The next day, Finn discovers that Leo is actually the son of the Pinnacle president and the head of their Old Maid office. Leo later delivers Nix's card to Owen, as his father ignores him while leaving the room. Finn swipes a client from Chris at the Pinnacle dealership as Wendy arrives late to work. The following night at the Crazy Eights bar, Chris tells Finn about unwritten rules of their job, which include never letting Wendy get too drunk or draw her sword. The next day, Wendy remembers the words of her late father and manages to arrive on time. However, Chris finds himself taken hostage in a bank robbery. Wendy decides to rush to the scene as the others follow on their own. Chris gets gunned down trying to shield a couple escaping hostages, but revives with his card's power. VJ manages to trap the thieves' escape van, and Wendy uses her card, the Ace of Spades, and summons love and peace. She manages to knock out the thieves with her sheathed sword, but one of the thieves takes VJ at knife point and reveals himself as another player, John Doe, with the Four of Hearts power, Agent S, allowing him to split himself up to 4 extra bodies at once. Feeling trapped by the clones and the words of her father, Wendy unsheathes the sword and lets the spirit of love and peace take over. Love P easily defeats John Doe, but then starts attacking the other High Card members before Finn manages to knock the sword out of her hands, causing Love P to sleep again. Junior Detective Sugarpiece grows increasingly suspicious of how multiple cases have been closed at the S.H.I.E.L.D. Police Department and how all persons of interest connected to Pinnacle are mysteriously let go without any follow-up. John Doe promises to turn state's evidence against the Klondike family if he is given witness protection. Sugar hands John off to another detective while she begins to stake out the Pinnacle dealership and the people who work there, but can't get any leads. A few nights later, veteran detective Greg Young attends a charity event held by Band Klondike, and Sugar arrests Finn for pointing a gun at her. Greg watches Band unveil a captive John Doe and slowly snaps his neck in front of the assembled crowd without touching him. Meanwhile, a woman from the Klondike family crushes Sugar's police car under a bus using some telekinetic power and nearly makes Finn shoot Sugar, but aims away at the last second, claiming that this was a warning. As the rain stops, Finn warns Sugar not to continue the investigation. Greg tries to find out from Ben what happened to the X-Playing cards over the past month, and Ben only tells him about X-Blind. The next day, Sugar claims she can't let her investigation go, while Greg informs her of John Doe's death. A man tells the legend of the land of Trapla, the predecessor to Forland, locked in war until a mage presented a band of 52 knights with a magic card, which they each used to swear a blood oath to a boy the mage called their true king. Though the knights died in battle, the powers of their cards remained, and the boy used the cards to expel the barbarians from Trapla, allowing him to become the first king of Forand. The story is told by an auctioneer on a cruise ship as he reveals the auction about to take place, where the main attraction is the X-Playing card 5 of Diamonds, though the man is unaware of its true power. The CEO of Who's Who, Norman Kingstadt, and his 2 secretaries have arrived to win the card at the auction. Meanwhile, the members of High Card launch a heist to swap the magical 5 of Diamonds with a fake card. The plan manages to go well at first, until one of Norman's secretaries, Blist, uses his million-volt power to attack Chris before he can make the switch. As Norman and Leo get involved in a bidding war, the card finally arrives on stage, but Finn's seasickness ruins Leo's chance. However, the card is stolen anyway by the telekinetic woman from Klondike, who escapes in a helicopter. Finn and Chris attempt to take the 2 of Diamonds from a girl named Chelsea, but she uses its power on them instead. The love connection ability forces Finn and Chris to stick their hands together, and they can't remove them, so they chase Chelsea all around S.H.I.E.L.D. to make her remove the power, but she refuses to release the connection until she finds her soulmate, and won't fall for Chris's words. Back at Finn's room, Finn has a nightmare about being attacked by a knight in black armor. The next morning, Chris takes Finn along to his date, which turns out to be spending time with his younger sister Michelle. Michelle thinks that Finn and Chris are a couple from their hands, but Finn plays along. When they stop at a nearby cafe, the 2 accidentally meet Chelsea again, working their part-time. Michelle asks Chelsea to come with them, and Chelsea plays along to expose Chris's facade. However, she ends up enjoying her time with Michelle. Michelle suddenly collapses in the street, and Chelsea releases the card's power so Chris can rush her to the hospital. At the hospital, Chris finds out that Michelle was actually in hospice care, but snuck out of the hospital to visit her brother one last time. Chelsea promises to give her card to Chris when she finds her soulmate. The next night, Chris and Finn find out Chelsea has become a waitress at their Crazy Eights bar. Finn returns to the Sunfields orphanage for Lindsay's birthday. However, Lindsay privately tells Finn during the birthday party that the orphanage is slated to close in the spring. Finn tells Lindsay that he can save the orphanage with money from his new job, but Lindsay is suspicious of how he earned so much money in a short time and turns him down. Suddenly, Bobby Ball appears at the party, looking for revenge at Finn. Lindsay gets the orphans out while Bobby Ball sets the building on fire, and Finn is forced to cover one of the boys while Bobby flings powerful marbles at Finn. Finn gets the boy off the roof with the other orphans' help, then manages to strike Bobby. Bobby reveals he now has 2 X-Playing cards, and uses X-Hand to combine the powers of the 3 of diamonds and 3 of spades, turning himself into a monster with extendable marble limbs that regenerates damage from Finn's bullets while mocking him for his family dying in a fire. Bobby is suddenly struck by a small missile from out of nowhere that explodes his whole body. After the attack, Finn realizes the nightmares he had about being attacked by a black knight in a flaming house were actually repressed memories, and wonders if Lindsay was in on the lie. An explosion rocks the capital of Spada as the Klondike family murders Dylan, the crown prince of Foreland, in the confusion. After speaking with the king and then Ben about the cards, Theodore orders High Card to immediately collect all known X-Plane cards, so Bernard makes travel arrangements for the group to head to different states of Foreland. However, Finn has locked himself in his room for 2 weeks after the events at Sun Fields, so Chris tries to persuade him to join him on the mission to Polo Stick. Finn is not interested at first, but later decides to join Chris to take his mind off recent events. Meanwhile, 2 members of the Klondike family are tipped off to Chris and Finn's mission. Jasper Labura boards the train and uses his 2 of clubs power, Metallical Parade, to threaten Chris and Finn, boasting about a mole and High Card and his plan to take their cards. His partner Alex will use his own card's power to drop a large rock on the rails and crush everyone on board. However, Chris responds that Jasper would also die in that scenario and says that he doesn't care if he kills Finn either, because Chris would gain both their cards after reviving with calories high. In desperation, Jasper rips off the train car's roof and swings a metal chainsicle at Finn. Finn wakes up in a cabin to find that Arya saved him. Meanwhile, Jasper tortures Chris for the location of his card after noticing that he wasn't using calories high to heal his injuries. Alex tries to find Finn and his card, and the other High Card members are forced to remain on standby after completing their own missions. Arya tells Finn that she used to be a member of High Card herself, working under Theodore with Chris' father, Tyler, and other agents. However, Arya grew upset with Theodore's callousness, and one day Arya went against Theodore's orders to help Tyler use an X-Hand with all the 5 cards to save Chris' life, but the strain of doing so cost him his own. After that day, Arya left High Card and drifted around Foreland before settling down in a remote cabin in the mountains. Soon after telling the story, Arya hands her card, the Jack of Clubs, to Finn, but suddenly the 2 of them are attacked by Alex, who seeks to take both their cards. Arya gets her card back and uses its power, Coming Home, to attract several large objects towards her and crush Alex, but Alex uses his own G-round power to block the attacks. Suddenly, Chris arrives on the scene, having escaped Jasper, and helps Finn and Arya defeat Alex. However, after taking the 5 of clubs from Alex, Chris shoots Finn, saying he didn't want him to find out about his past. Chris reflects on his past and how Finn reminds him of a younger version of himself. Meanwhile, Finn wakes up in the Pinnacle office, where he finds out that Chris shot him in the pocket where he kept his indestructible X-Plane card, saving his life. Finn is ordered to stand by while the other members of High Card directly guard the royal family from the Klondikes. Chris uses Chelsea as a go-between to collect his equipment, but is attacked by police as Theodore has put out an order to shoot Chris on sight. Meanwhile, Ben rallies a group of heavily armed terrorists to attack the Foreland Palace, and sends Not to help Chris escape from the police. Back at the Pinnacle office, Lindsay pays a visit to Finn and shows that Chris sent him a money order to rebuild the orphanage. Finn soon realizes that Chris saw him as family and puts together his true motives, rushing to the hospital after Chris has absconded with Michelle. Finn begs Chris via phone not to sacrifice his own life for Michelle, but Chris speeds out of the hospital and survives a sniper shot from Owen with his calories high power. Owen then tells Finn he's fired for disobeying Theodore's orders. Klondike's terrorists storm the palace in waves as the members of High Card continue their defensive battle. Meanwhile, a couple of Pinnacle men knock out Finn to keep him from interfering with hunting down Chris. Sugar rushes to the hospital as Owen's men are carrying Finn out, and Finn uses the distraction to hijack her car, which happens to have Chelsea in the back seat. Meanwhile, Ben uses his own card's power to completely wipe out a police checkpoint stalling Chris, telling him the cards deserve to be used for their own sake. Finn and Chelsea deduce that Chris is taking Michelle to the Ferris wheel from their last date, but not wrecks their car and forces them to flee. Chelsea gets wounded while escaping with Finn, but when he arrives, possessed by Love P, to fight Not in his place. With help from Sugar and Greg providing a distraction, Love P scores a major hit on Not, before Greg knocks Love P out with some falling debris. Chris finally takes Michelle to the Ferris wheel and begins playing the X-hand of all fives to trade his life for hers. Finn gets a ride from Bernard, and Leo uses his never-know-dollars power to build a bridge directly to the wheel, but runs out of money before they can reach it, forcing Finn to use his Neo-New Nambu to fire a shot all the way through the window of Chris's car and knock one of the cards out of his X-hand. 3 days later, martial law has been lifted from S.H.I.E.L.D. Chris finds out that the 3-card X-hand was able to partially heal his sister at the expense of half of his life, rather than all of it. Both Finn and Chris are rehired at Pinnacle, but Chris is demoted under Finn as punishment. Elsewhere, Nott is impaled on the sword of a Black Knight. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time.